S3. The Clockwork Paradox. When the machine stopped shaking, Dr. Elara Voss tasted coal smoke and rain. She lifted the brass lever and the hatch hissed open to reveal the skyline of London 1900, a city on the knife edge between steam and electricity. Gas lamps flickered in the fog. The Thames glimmered like tarnished silver. Somewhere, a whistle blew from the docks, and the city exhaled. She had made it. SP. Her chronometer blinked. Strong, temporal coordinates, January 4th, 1900, Greenwich. Elara stepped onto the cobblestones, her boots sinking into puddles that reflected the orange light of the lamps. She drew her coat tighter. The air was thick with soot and promise, the scent of an empire at its zenith. Her mission was straightforward: observe the dawn of modern invention firsthand, to see how humanity made the leap from brass to silicon, from steam to stars. But time, she would soon discover, had its own designs. At the Royal Institution that week, whispers spread of a young inventor showing an impossible device, something that defied all known physics. The newspapers called him the electric prophet. His name was Lucius Gray. Elara knew that name. It appeared once in her database, an obscure footnote referencing an unverified disappearance in 1900 following a laboratory fire. But there were no surviving details, no designs, no body. She had to see him. The demonstration hall was packed. Men in waistcoats and women in feathered hats filled the air with murmurs. At the front stood Lucius, tall, eyes fever-bright, his hands blackened by solder and ambition. On the table before him sat a device no larger than a clock, a sphere of brass and crystal, surrounded by coils that hummed with blue light. "This," Lucius declared, "is not merely an engine. It is a mirror of time itself." The crowd tittered. Someone scoffed. But when he flipped the switch, the air bent. Elara felt the hairs on her arms lift. The machine pulsed, and for an instant, the world folded. The light refracted into impossible colors. A shiver ran through space, and she saw, just for a second, the outline of another machine. Hers. Lucius turned his gaze toward her, through the shimmer, and smiled. After the hall emptied, she found him outside, beneath a flickering street lamp. The fog curled around them like breath. "You're not from here," he said quietly. "Your accent, your eyes, I've seen them before." Elara froze. "Before?" He nodded. "In the machine. The one that fell from the sky." He reached into his coat and withdrew a shard of metal. Polished, etched with symbols that made Elara's heart lurch. It was part of a temporal engine, centuries beyond this era's technology. Her technology. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "Found it in the ruins of a dream," Lucius said. "Or perhaps in the future." Over the next weeks, Elara worked beside him in his cluttered workshop overlooking the Thames. They spoke in the language of sparks and equations. He showed her his prototypes, gyroscopes spinning faster than friction should allow, filaments glowing without power. And she, despite herself, told him pieces of the truth, about the centuries to come, about machines that could leap through time like skipping stones. Lucius listened, not with disbelief, but recognition. "I've seen it," he said one night. "A city of glass, reaching to the clouds. But every time I dream it, it ends in flame." He looked up at her. "We weren't meant to build forever, were we?" One evening, the air in the workshop began to hum with energy, a frequency Elara knew too well. Her chronometer flared crimson. Temporal anomaly detected. Lucius was already at the generator, adjusting the dials. "I can stabilize it," he said. "No," she shouted. "You'll tear the continuum apart. You're creating a loop." But he only smiled sadly. "If I don't, it all ends here. You vanish. The machine never falls. The future dies unborn." The coils screamed. The glass windows blew inward, showering the floor in glittering fragments. Through the storm of light, Elara saw Lucius, framed in the machine's glow. The same impossible device that would, in her century, be found buried beneath London and labeled unexplained anomaly. He mouthed something she couldn't hear. Then, the world inverted. When she awoke, she was lying in the ruins of the workshop. The machine was gone. So was Lucius. The newspapers the next morning spoke of an explosion of unknown cause. No remains were found, only scorch marks and fragments of brass that pulsed faintly under moonlight. Elara returned to her time weeks later, heart heavy, data incomplete. In the archive of temporal anomalies, she found one new entry: 1900 London. Temporal distortion resolved. Catalyst: Lucius Gray. Result: preservation of timeline integrity. Subject status undetermined. Period. Years later, when she walked through the Museum of Early Technology, she saw a familiar device displayed behind glass, a sphere of brass and crystal. The plaque read, "Provenance unknown, recovered from the banks of the Thames, 1900. Period." As she stared, the sphere gave a single soft tick, like a heartbeat under glass. And for the briefest moment, she thought she heard his voice, whispering through time. Block quote: "We build the future only once."